Okay, hello everyone. Good to have you all on board. It's another time with 34IO, the entity 624, and in today's tutorial, it happens to be the class, more like the revision class for the course INR302, which is all about media in international relations. One thing with this department that I'd loved to have been the situation, this department in particular, it's one department I find really amusing. All right. I have so much interest in the courses, all right, of this department. Now, why am I so interested? A whole lot of their courses are centered or revolve or speaks reality, all right, and not just locally but internationally. And like I said earlier, in some of our retrospective classes, is I wish that this particular um, department actually showed interest early in the private classes, right? Because most of our classes actually, all right, we started a bit late. And just as you can see, this particular course, we've never had any class, not even one before now. It happens to be the very first class, and the exam for this course is tomorrow. So it's more like a crash class, but it's not supposed to be so. And this is why I keep saying that next semester, although the 2 semesters we have experienced are very short, as they have actually clashed, as the academic calendar of the national presidency initially has been, all right, altered due to the issue of TME misconduct we experienced in the registration semester. All right, so due to this, a whole lot of inconsistency and imbalances in the calendar. All right, so come next semester, is next year, 2016, everything will be restored back to normal and everything will be properly structured. All right, this is not the time for us to relax. All right, it's basically an opportunity for us to start early. All right, and I keep saying this, when we start early, the process is interesting, it's fun, because having taken you to classes, we head straight for Telegram. From Telegram, in the Telegram private, which is actually exclusive to members in the private class, we get to discuss. All right, we get to discuss one-on-one, expand on what students have learned during YouTube classes. I mean, it's actually usually fun, but we usually have this time before TME is being released, before the timetable for exams, and there's the whole clamor of we need to get things rushed through. No. All right, so what am I saying in essence that next semester, please let's join the private classes early. All right, let's show interest in the classes early. We'll do that. We can start our classes even before you register for the semester. Yes, a lot of students, most especially in our terminal level, a lot of them that benefited a lot from this particular semester is even before they pay their school fees. There's a way we check to know your courses. We check, okay, we know the courses, we started the classes. Even before registration started, we already started their classes. So when they did their registration, I mean, we already taken their classes, we've actually gone far. But when you are waiting for, okay, let me know the courses, we've not even start. Before you start the semester, there's the time before you know the TMA, before you know the exam, and we begin to rush up and down. So we are using the opportunity to encourage us that please let's ensure to join classes early and enjoy the process together. Our joy, our benefit, all right, is that you make the best of the semester. You're going to that example confidently and competently. It's not a thing of you are limited to out of 5 questions, you're limited to just 2 or 3 questions because those are the ones you know. No, it will be a thing of out of all the 6 questions, you can answer all confidently. But now you're now being restricted to just answer 3 questions. This is our happening. It's our pick the ones you want to answer answer not because of you don't know the others, but because you choose to answer them, and you can even go to the extent of collecting extra sheet. There are barely exams I write when I was doing my undergraduate program, and I don't collect extra sheet because it's not the point of out of 6 questions. Out of 6, I know 6. So you are just limiting me to answering 3, and those 3 I'm answering, I'm giving it to you in detail. So basically, this is what we do. All right, and back to back, we have seen the results in the private class with good grades. This semester, I'm going to show the results again, and the grades are going to be wonderful. So enough of this. Let's get straight into today's class. Okay. So now, like I said earlier, according to the thumbnail, it's I. All right, it's INR302, and it's all about media in international policy, in international relations. Now, let's take a step further. By the end of this class tonight, the keynote of this course is already ready, it's available. So please ensure to request the keynote of this class after the keynote of this course after this class. It's already available. So you can use it to prepare for this exam as well. So now, to get started, there are some list of acronyms which we have in the course material. We definitely not be going through those acronyms now. You can always get them in the keynote and you can use them to your personal advantage. But just to mention about a few, we have the likes of AU, which is African Union, the likes of BBC, British Broadcasting Organization Corporation, the likes of CNN, Cable News Network, the likes of ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States, and so on and so forth. So to start with in tonight's class, all right, it's all about media in international relations. All right. Now, media plays a very vital role both locally and internationally, irrespective of the fact that it is internationally we are going to be intentional about in the course of this class. All right, media plays very key and important role both locally and internationally. Media can be used to shape the future of a country, futures of unborn generation. The media can be used to develop a country, and this same media can be used as a tool of destruction. All right, as it can be used as a constructive, all right, tool of development. It can also be used as a destructive tool to development. It all depends on how you wield the power of media. Media is very, very, very powerful. All right? Media is very, very powerful. So you can use it positively and you can use it negatively. So this is negative and this is positive. So media can be used negatively and it can be used positively. Now, this is more like an overview. This is more like a general saying about media. And when we talk about international relations, by now we already know that what that is. So we don't need to dwell much on that. So to get started, it says here, what is the media? When people communicate with one another, they do so by means of a medium. Are we together? When medium is different from media, that according to what we have, it says, what is the meaning or what is the media? Now, it is now being said that when people communicate, all right, they do so, when people communicate to one another, they do so through a medium. Are we together? The channel which you employ. Okay, I think it's stable now. We are back. So now, like I said earlier, when you communicate, you do this through a medium. All right. So what are we saying here in essence? Anything that you use to transmit information or to represent information is a medium of communication. All right. So media, as we speak now, is the plural form of medium. Are we together? Which, broadly speaking, describes the channel of communication. So media and medium, they are intertwined. All right. It can include any form of printed paper to digital data. Speaking of which, just a moment. I think I need to plug this my system, connect my system to a charger. Just a moment. Okay. Now, so as I was explaining, media and medium, they are intertwined. They work hand in hand. Media now is the plural form. You know, when you communicate with one person to the other, you use a particular medium. You can communicate through spoken word. All right. You can communicate by writing letter or written words. You can communicate through signs and language. You can communicate by facial expression. You can communicate by body language. You can communicate by certain gestures. All right. So all those are medium of communication. So media now is now the plural form of medium of communication. Are we together? Media can now be, or it can now include anything from printed paper to digital data and encompasses art. That is to tell you that art does communicate. News, educational content, and numerous other form of information. Anything that can reach or influence people, including their phone, the television, and the internet, can be considered a form of media. In other words, the media is an umbrella term used, all right, it's an umbrella term employed to define varying form of presenting information, news, opinion to a large audience at the same time. Now, are we getting the similarities here? Are we following through on the nitty-gritties? From what I can see here, media and medium, they are intertwined. All right. So media is more like the implementation of medium of communication. Medium is intentional about what channel you use, while media is intentional about the tools. All right. Media is intentional about the tools used in communicating, the tools used as a medium of communication. Just like we have government and governance. Are we together? Citizenship and citizen. Media and medium. Please let's take note of that. I think let's put that down. when passing the information. So we have media is the tool used in the process of selecting the medium of communication. Are we together? So you cannot talk about media without a medium, although you can actually talk about a medium without a media. Let's take a step further. Now it says here, the collection. So we talked about medium, talked about media. Now we now have something I want us to please take note of. It says that the collection of all forms of media, all right, the collection of all form of media that communicates information to the general public is now called the mass media. So we've added mass to the media. And when we talk about mass now, we are considering a large group of people. All right, we are considering a large audience. So it is now seen as a collection of all forms of media that communicate information to the general public. These now include the likes of television, print. When we say print now, we have the flyers, the newspaper, the handbills, the pamphlets, radio, and the internet. So we have that as that. So there's something called the media effect. All right. When we talk about the media effect now, it's a bit, it's nothing, there's nothing hidden about the media effect. All right. What we are simply talking about is definitely the media has an effect. All right. This effect could be positive, it could be negative. It is determined by the content of the media. Like I said, media can be used as a destructive tool to destroy a civilization, to destroy an entire country. And this same media can be used as a constructive tool. Why is media so powerful? You see, one thing with media is that media does not impose what you think, but media can determine what you think. Are we together? Media does not impose, it does not force you to think a thing, but this same media can indirectly, somehow, systematically, stylishly, diplomatically, all right, simultaneously determine what you think. Have you ever heard the saying that you are what you read, you are what you watch, you are what you eat, you are what you consume? When you watch, when you listen to a certain thing for a long period of time, all right, this will form your thought system. This will form the way you reason. It will form the way you do things. It will form how you behave. This has not imposed anything on you. But because of you keep watching, you keep listening to, you realize that you begin to talk like what you hear. You begin to behave like what you watch on TV. You want to begin to act, you want to begin to copy, you want to begin to portray your model, your best music actor, actresses, all right? They are not telling you live my lifestyle, but because you watch them over time, you've been watching them over time. I mean, you can sing their songs, you can do, all right, you can write their lyrics, and you just find out that you're beginning to behave like them. That's the power of media. All right, so you can imagine if it's something very degrading to morality, all right? If it's something very degrading, if it's something anti social and cultural life, if it's something that is against the ethic of the society, you realize that that would be a big problem, all right? But you can imagine when children learn good habits, when children learn good things through media, you see the way they behave politely, do their assignment, they dress moderately, respect their parents, make their parents proud. All these things can also be determined through the media. So that's why it is said that media effects in every country is very powerful. It says here that media effects are intended or unintended consequences of what the mass media does. So there's what we call intended and unintended consequences. So we have media effects. So we have them as intended, also unintended. Now, most likely, you see this in you see this intended, not even most likely. Intended, you are being intentional, you are being constructive about personal development, mass development. This intended effect now, you are intentional about, you are controlling what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, and what you consume. When I say you are intentional, maybe you are developing yourself, you are developing a particular skill, or maybe you are developing a particular habit or a particular character. You are very intentional about the kind of content you watch, the kind of songs you listen to, the kind of media content you consume. But you see this unintended, you are not really here or there. You are not really cold or hot. You are more like a freelancer. Anything that comes, anything that you see, you have no idea a lot of how much contents are there, how much content the media present before us on a daily basis. Unfortunately, in this dispensation, whereby the tolerance limit of an average Gen Z, all right, is about maybe 2 seconds or less. And you see what most of them watch are unintended things. Let's say, for example, now you go to Facebook, you go to YouTube, probably you want to quickly read a particular post you are following. Before you get to that post, a lot of things are being recommended. And if you're not careful, you'll be carried away with those things that are being recommended. They might even be things you don't even want to watch, you don't want to read, but they will look so appealing. And before you know it, you are watching them, you are being carried away. And by the time the algorithm, which is a computer system that is being structured, if you watch something to you first, second, and third time, and out of these 3 times, you comply maybe once or twice, it will recommend it more. And if you comply again, it will keep recommending it. And before you know it, you can be unintentionally trapped. You can be unaware that you are already swerving away. So unintended and intentional or intended effects are real. Many of the key theories in mass communication rest on the assumption that media has effect on audience member. Definitely, you are what you consume. The degree and the type of effect varies depending on the theory. So very quickly, let's consider some theories. All right, let's consider some theories of media effect. Please, for those of us who are on the stream, if you have been following and up to now, you have not give us the likes, you are not being fair, please do well to smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please also do well to subscribe now. Highly essential. Now, let's talk about the theories now. So now, just a moment. I think I need to quickly make some adjustments here. Just a moment. Just a moment. Now, the very first theory we want to talk about is the agenda setting theory. This agenda setting theory this agenda setting theory okay describes the ability of the news media to influence important place on the topic of the public agenda. The study of agenda setting describes the way media attempt to influence viewers and establish the hierarchy of news prevalence. Now, what are we saying here in essence? The agenda setting theory, as the name says, agenda. There's a crafted purpose. There's an agenda. There's a reason for getting this particular news in front of the mass, in front of the masses, in front of the audience. All right. And this is the ability of the news media to influence importance placed on the topic. So, influence on influence on the importance placed on specific topics. So there are specific topics, and these topics influenced. These topics are intentional and deliberate about making certain impressions, striking certain influence on the listener. We also have critical media theory. Within the media, critical theory is also situated in what we refer to as the constructivist approach. And in its broadest, is concerned with political economy of media, arguing that media and subsequently public opinions are subject to the goals of the elites. That's the critical media theory, which has to do, which is under the constructivist approach. All right. And it's all about making us understand that political economy concerned with the political economy of media. Okay. It's all about public opinion that the goal of the elite in order to maintain status quo or ideology. And this is a thing of a group of people trying to maintain a status quo based on what the media says about them. This is the critical media theory. So we understand now what media is about. So let's quickly talk about what media does in domestic politics. The role of media discourse is crucial in the expression of the idea regarding to how people think about themselves and other nations. Now, the media selects, organizes, and emphasizes. Speaking of the media, the power of media in domestic policies, politics. Talking about local politics now, politics within the confine of a country. All right. The media does what? Select, organize, and emphasize particularly news in order to decide what a significant subject of public discussion is. Definitely, it is not all discussion that hits the news. But anything that hits the news, definitely there is need for everybody to be aware of that particular news. So the media is what gets this in. A lot of things happen in this country. A lot of things happen in the world. But is it everything that happens in the world that is the news? No. Anyone that is the news is a result of the fact that the media are selected, organized, and is now laying emphasis on that particular news in order for you and I to decide the significance of that subject and public discussion. So, what are we saying in essence? Media power in domestic politics is as a result of what the media brings to us, is what we see as effective, functional, and a matter of interest. So, we're going to be calling a wrap soon. Definitely, we can't cover much in just one class. And like I said, the keynote of this course is available. So you can always request the keynote of this course after this class. So now let's take a step further. Concept of international relation. There are two senses in which the term international relation is to be understood. First, it's a field of study. And secondly, international relation is to be understood and which forms the major concern of the course is an actual relations interaction among states. All right. So we have the concept of international relation. So it says that I can be considered from two senses, which is as a field of study. All right. And secondly, actual interaction. All right. Actual interaction among states. So we don't need to dwell much on that. So very quickly, let's brush on the origin of media. Now, about 40,000 years ago, some human ancestors painted on the walls of a cave on Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Sulawesi. Now, remember I said this the other time that art is another form of media. Now, they left still standstills, all right, of their hands, all right, more like an imprint of their hands and other markings. Cave paintings in France and Spain have been dated to a couple of thousands of years. You can imagine What if they had never left us time that they existed? How would we have known? Might come to revelation. But physical facts, physical imprints, stencils were available by seeing the old drawings on walls of caves, all right, imprints of palm, human palm on caves, and archaeologists can study that. Yes, from what we can see here, these imprints can be dated back to as long as 10,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago. All right, we've seen, we watched them in documentaries. All right, most times, sometimes archaeologists help to bring all this back to life as well. Speaking of the genesis of media, now experts experts don't know exactly what purpose the artwork had, but some suggest that it might be the first examples of communication through a medium. So, like I said, those paintings on the wall, all right, it's actually a means. It's a means of communication, and a means of communication is a medium. So, there happens to be the genesis of means of communicating through a medium. Now, the audience for such painting was very small, definitely. So, the so called mass media had to wait for the creation of new technologies before coming to life. Definitely, paintings of the world cannot get to a lot of audience. Definitely, such audience are very small. So, when we now talk about mass media, we have to wait to experience mass media. We have to wait years after years upon years, all right, before these technologies are being developed. So the first of these was paper, all right, invented in China before 100 BC, all right, that's before Christ. However, another 1005 years had passed before Johannes Gutenberg built the first printing press around 1440 in Germany. So the origin of media, witness cave wall paintings, all right, cave wall painting slash art slash imprints. Then we have to wait for thousands of years. Then paper was introduced, paper invention in China. That was in 100 about 100 BCE, and we have printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in about 1440 in Germany. So we have printing press in 1440 in Germany. All right. So books now could now be produced in mass. Then by early 1800, we witness the circulation of newspaper. All right. And in addition, we begin to experience audio breakthrough, audio broadcasting too, which is an invention in 1800. And before you know it, there was pictures, moving pictures in 1895. All right, 1885. Lumerian brothers gave the first public demonstration of moving pictures in Paris. And before you know it, we have radio and telephone, and the developments kept on booming and growing. And we have the types of media, which are print, broadcasting, and internet. So we're going to call it wrap here for today. All right. I wished we had more time. We have covered a whole lot more, but this is just what we can achieve. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe you're able to gain something in tonight's class. Please let's ensure to request the keynote of this course after this class. Visit our website www.story.net and send us a direct message. I'll be happy to attend to these need of yours. Do have a wonderful evening. Bye for now. Share the best and success in exams tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you all in subsequent tutorial as against next semester. Bye for now.